Everybody, welcome to episode 182 of The Deep End. We got a special episode today. Got Ben Forrest with Poolside Tech, the Attendant, and now the Mini. And Ben, as you'll notice from his accent, he's from Australia. And Ben's been over here for a while. He came over here with Poolworks. You've been with Powell Lighting, and now you're with the Attendant. And I wanted to bring Ben on to share all the benefits that the Attendant has over other systems in the industry, because it really is like light years ahead of other systems. Other systems, the larger manufacturers of pool equipment, the big three, as you would call them, I think they're scrambling a little bit trying to catch up to Poolside Tech. Poolside Tech is what? How long has Poolside Tech been in the pool industry?
About 6 years now.
About six years?
Yeah.
And really, the guys, they got a really cool history. We're not going to tell their history, but they basically revolutionized another industry.
We did. We're from the restaurant industry.
The restaurant industry.
I'm not, but the founders are certainly from the restaurant industry. So.
And the cool guys, like total nerds. Complete nerds, but they're cool nerds, you know. They came into the industry. They saw the weaknesses that our industry has in automation, and from what they've done in the past, they realized how it's not that hard to bring pool automation into the 21st century. So, and all the benefits, the system they've developed. One, it can morph. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens. It's an intelligent system that can adjust, and they can make it fit anything that happens in the industry. But go ahead, if you want to talk a little bit about the Attendant or talk a little bit about Poolside Tech.
I'm glad I wasn't holding my breath there.
I like to talk.
It's curious you mentioned that, Frank. I guess probably, before we even get into the features and benefits, one of the things that really sets the Attendant apart, I think, from the rest of it, is the fact that it was actually designed by a homeowner, in essence. Bob, we have not been in the pool industry. As a homeowner, he was very underwhelmed with what a builder described as the latest and state-of-the-art technology, and only to find it was anything but.
But now, if I understand it right, he had a pool built, and the pool owner or
correct,
the pool builder was, oh man, you can do this, you can do that, and Bob started asking him questions like, well, how do I do this? Oh, well, it can't do that. Well, what about this? I can't do that. And so Bob, that's kind of got Bob's gears turning, and
it's curious, isn't it? Like, we're already starting urban legends only 6 years into our journey. Something like that. Something like that. And as someone who, had built and sold a very successful company that was designed to capture data and use that data to be able to do a whole array of things, it got him curious. And were he here today, he'd say something to the words to the effect of, when you buy an automobile, you get a gauge to say that you're running out of gas, because gas is just fundamental to the operation
right,
to the automobile, right? And yet modern automation in the swimming pool industry can't tell you something as simple as, hey, your filter's dirty and your baskets might be blocked, you might want to go and check those.
You know what? And it is simple things like that automation, to this point,
still does not provide.
It does not provide. It doesn't tell you when you have a problem.
Yeah.
It just tells you this is on or this is off.
Sometimes not even that.
Yeah.
So sometimes not even that. There are a raft of things that, as a newly unemployed person after he sold his last business, that he looked around at, and, fast forward 6 years and here we are. And I think it's with that in mind that, when we get into start talking about features, what does this do, most of them are around the homeowner. Okay, so whereas in the past, automation has been largely something that pool professionals can put on but to the homeowner, it represents not much more than a fancy time clock. You know,
Yes.
it turns things on and off when they're supposed to.
It's basically been remote on-off switches.
Yeah, and it gives them a semi-reasonable interface with it through a smartphone app that is very rarely described as user-friendly by anyone. And these days, automation, when you look at what automation provides us outside the world, you know, why not in the pool industry? Well, now it does.
Right.
So things like managing energy effectively, you know, we've just really revolutionised how we can do that. And there's a multitude of ways. I mean, one of the leading appeals from homeowners is this machine, if it was to replace other automation systems and change nothing else on the pad, can quite reasonably, homeowners can expect to save 30 to 60% on their heating bill almost immediately. That we're not talking 5 to 10% here, Frank.
Right.
We're talking about significant savings. Now, not everyone uses heating, but we've developed tools that outside of heating, just for your filtration, we can now manage variable speed pumps, and for the first time ever, homeowners can actually get energy savings from the variable speed pump that they've been expecting and been sold for 15 years now. But no one actually, and you know what I'm talking about, no one can effectively control a variable speed pump 25 times a day as it changes from cycle to cycle to maximise the energy. Well, this is what this has been designed to do.
Yes, and this not only will it manage it for you, and it leads you down that path of better energy savings, but it also tells you, it does the calculations and will tell you, this is how much your pump is costing you right now. This is what your pump cost you yesterday or in the past month. It actually does the calculations. It's not just, hey, we saved you money. It's like, no, this is how much this cost you. As long as good data in, it's going to give us great information out.
Yeah, unlike most organisations who talk about energy savings but don't really give you any feasible way to quantify or verify that they're real, you can map all of your energy, whether that be electricity or gas, and monitor it by device, and you get 12 months history at any one time straight through the app.
See that, that right there is game changing, especially for the energy conscious. You know, the whole world's moving that direction. You know, I'm not a tree hugger or anything like that, but I mean, everybody wants to save money. And if everybody got more focused on saving money personally, it is really moving towards the greener planet, less energy consumption, less stress on the on our power grids. Because if pools in certain parts of the country are a large chunk of the energy usage being used in cities, and these power grids are struggling. And so if we could really tweak that down, I mean, that could be significant.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, let's turn this up a little bit. If you if you have an electricity account which has tiered or day parts to it, okay, so that you have peak periods and off-peak periods, if you tell the attendant that, and you do that very simply through your app, just key in exactly what it says on your power bill, it'll now take that into account, and it'll set heating schedules wherever possible around using off-peak power rather than your peak power. And it'll calculate the cheapest every time you hit the heat button. It calculates the cheapest way to heat your body of water. Even when you have multiple heaters, it'll choose which one's going to do it more efficiently on any given day based on the ambient temperature and a number of factors.
And it takes the weather, and it's tied into the Weather Channel?
2 weather channels.
2 weather channels. So when it's doing its calculations, it's actually taking real data. It's not saying, well, in the average month of July, this is what your temperatures are going to be. No, it's actually saying outside temperature's this is your humidity, and it just takes all this stuff, puts it together, it knows your water temperature, and it even it takes all that and it calculates it with your body of water, the volume of water in the pool, and it can really knock it down to.
It can predict what your body of water will do between now and over the next 7 days' time. So if you set a heating schedule in 7 days' time, it's predicting now whether that body of water is going to rise naturally because it's going to be hot for the next week, or drop off naturally because it's going to be cold, and it's predicting that so that it knows exactly what that body of water is going to be this time next week in order for it to then turn the heater on at the right time. And it'll tell you that if we program it to do that now, within 5 minutes you've got that answer of exactly what time it's going to turn that heater on.
So this is something super
in
simple.
6 or 7 days time. It's not super simple. It's super simple if you have
as far as for the homeowner.
Absolutely. It's not super simple if you have a computer, I was going to say. For the homeowner, it's easy. We call it a ready by timer. So, one of the most common questions that the industry has always had to deal with historically is when consumers buy a pool at the very first day, they want to know from the pool builder, A, how much is the pool going to cost me to build? And B, how much is it going to cost me to run?
Yes.
Both are pretty important factors when they decide whether they can actually afford the pool.
Yes.
And we've never really been able to answer how much it costs to run. So as an industry, we've always given consumers, well, it depends on, and throw out so many variables that you don't answer the question, but you confuse them so much that they stop asking it, at least.
Yeah, I could see that.
Am I wrong?
No, you're
right.
You're quite accurate.
So now with this device, at the touch of a button, and let me demonstrate
Absolutely.
it just for this purpose. If I'm to turn on my spa, I'm first of all going to select spa, and I'm simply going to turn on the heater, which is going to cause it to heat it to 102 degrees.
Heard the click?
You heard the click, and within a minute or so, it's saying, preparing the spa. The spa is heating to 102 degrees Fahrenheit and will be ready in 48 minutes.
Because it knows the volume of water.
We have never been able to answer that question.
People always say, hey, how long is it going to take to heat my spa? 48 minutes.
Exactly 48 minutes.
Today.
So if I hit the review button in the app, it also comes up, and you may not be able to see this, the spa is anticipated to be at 102 degrees in 48 minutes. The estimated cost to achieve this temperature is $8.
That's incredible.
So we can now choose to say, got it, okay, go ahead and do your thing, or turn off the spa, I don't want to spend the $8.
If you don't want to spend that $8, if it's not worth $8 to you to heat your spa, and now that's just to get it to temperature.
So that's quite cool, okay, that information. No one's ever been able to answer either of those two questions. How long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost? What the attendant then gives the client an easy path to do, though, is where it really becomes cool. Because we know this information, we now no longer have to set timers the way we've always done up until this device, and that is if you ask 100 pool guys, they're going to tell you that same hot tub, they're going to be telling that client to turn that heater on 2 to 3 hours before they want it ready. Yeah. So if the client wants it ready at 5 p.m, we're turning it on somewhere between 2 and 3 p.m. We're burning somewhere between 120 and 180 minutes of gas. Now, by setting a ready by timer and simply going in and saying to the app, I want to make this ready by 5 p.m. And I want it at 104 degrees, you do the math and work out what is the very last moment in time we can turn the heater on and hit that temperature by 5 p.m. and not waste a minute of gas. Right. So we're now seeing that that's 40 minutes, not in fact 120 to 180.
And so like you can be like, hey babe, when we get back from the show this Saturday, we'll be home about 4:30. You want to get in the hot tub? Let's make a real night of it.
And you can set that up to 7 days in advance because of the Weather Channel. We know exactly, within minutes, you know exactly what time it's going to turn on, even though the weather's changing.
So, and then it knows, hey, 5:30, they're going to be back from the show, and they're, going to want to get in their swimsuits and get in the hot tub, or no swimsuits, you be you. And it's going to be ready for them, and just getting ready for them. It ain't like it's been heated for the last hour and a half.
If the attendant's doing its job, that is not at the desired temperature at 5 minutes to, or
till
even
the
3 minutes
set
before
time.
5 p.m. or whatever their set time is. It should be hitting that with a minute two at the most before that set time.
All right, and let's say somebody's heater is a little less efficient, or their hot tub's larger than what they put in the Attendant because they put in bad data. If I understand it right, the Attendant will learn that over a few heating cycles and say, you know what, I can't run the math using their numbers. There's an error somewhere. I know it takes, instead of 48 minutes, it's going to take 53 minutes off the history of heating the spa in the past.
Correct. It doesn't necessarily know that you've got the volume wrong. There might be another factor.
It could just be an inefficient heater.
But it certainly learns the environment from its results, previous results, and within a few heating events, it knows how to predict.
It's going to correct
that body of water. Yes.
That's crazy. I want to go to break. We'll go to break. When we come back, I want to talk about how it can help us with energy savings with electricity, sure, as far as running pumps and stuff. So we'll be right back.
The pool's a mess, and the water is green. How much acid? How much chlorine? You tested the water, but what does it mean? Take a dive into the deep end.
All right, we're back. Episode 182. I got Ben Forrest with us from Poolside Tech, the Attendant, and first part of the show, Ben was talking about how incredibly
user-friendly,
and actually smart heating of the swimming pool, and eliminating waste, saving you on your gas. This segment, I want to talk more about how the system can save us on our electricity, as far as running pumps and stuff like that. How it actually calculates your body of water and turnovers and all that.
So, okay, we've jumped right into the deep end. You see what I did there? Yep. So recently, one of the newest tools, and I think one of the very coolest gadgets that our friendly team of engineers have come up with, is a digital sensor that allows us to actually get true water flow. Flow sensors are not new to the pool industry by any means. Commercial pools have been using them for years and years and years, but they've always been very, very expensive, so they've not really played any significant part, hardly any part at all in the domestic market. It's a FlowViz. So it's made by H2 Flow.
H2 Flow.
Been doing this for years and make awesome. It's a check valve style unit.
Yeah, it's a cool looking unit. It really is.
It is, and we've collaborated with them to develop the sensor that just attaches to the side of it. So whether you've got an 1.5 inch, a 2 inch, a 3 inch, 4 inch, 6 inch, or an 8 inch FlowViz, this sensor will just attach to the side of it. And what was a mechanical that you had to go out and have a look at it, now we're feeding that in real time directly into the Attendant, and it knows what the speed is every minute of the day that there's water flowing.
And because of this, it can actually tell you, because it's going to learn at this speed what your normal flow is. So will it alert you, say, hey, we're running that speed, but we're not getting that flow, we got an issue.
Correct. So we started this whole session by a modern automation system can't tell you something as basic as your filter and baskets may need cleaning.
Right.
Go and check them. Well, that you could certainly use that for this. This is one way we can generate that alert. There's a variety of ways that we can send that signal though. For instance, if you were to connect a salt system into the Attendant, if you didn't have the FlowViz unit or the flow sensor, if you were to attach a salt system in here and connect it in through the ports, we can actually read from the flow switch inside someone else's chlorinator, and we can automatically run the pump, speed it up and down each day to see what speed that flow switch is actually activated, to then monitor that and be able to trigger alerts saying, hey, we have to run the pump at 200 RPM higher today than we did yesterday. You might want to check your baskets.
So it will adjust the pump to reach that minimum flow.
It'll speed, wind down the pump, then speed it back up again to see exactly what point it triggered that flow switch from a different device from inside someone's chlorinator. And then it'll say, well, hang on, that's higher than it should be. That's higher than, certainly significantly higher, so it'll send you an alert, or the homeowner.
See that I don't think people are really grasping how much that changes things, because now it isn't we show up next week and we have all these problems because a towel got in one of the skimmers or was covering the main drain and we lost all this flow, and so we weren't producing chlorine all week, and now we're having to play catch up. This system is going to realize it, find the speed to make sure we still achieve the needed flow, not the needed speed, the actual flow.
Correct.
To satisfy what our system requires.
Correct. Whereas before, all the flow rates were generated by variable speed pumps driven from an algorithm which has no real understanding of whether the baskets are clean or dirty, or the filter are clean and dirty, so it can't really cater for that. This is true. This is approved for commercial performance, so commercial operations. So
and that's not easy to get approved.
No, this is commercial grade flow meter and chemistry.
So with salt systems, one of my biggest beefs over the year with salt systems, and really any sanitizer feed system or acid feed system, is it's people running for 8-10 hours and then they're off. They do nothing all night. Well, now and by the way, they speak to anybody's salt system and will control anybody's salt system with the Attendant. We can create enough flow to satisfy the salt system, so now we can produce chlorine all night long if we choose to. And that's not much flow that it requires.
No, that's right. But I mean, the point is here that it can operate at very, very low speeds so that it's getting chemistry readings accurately. And at such a point that it realises the chlorine's a little bit lower than it should be, suddenly maybe there's a rainstorm happening, it'll then automatically speed up the pump to satisfy the needs of the salt chlorinator, that it operates flow switches, operate the chlorinator for as long as it takes to get the chlorine level back to where it needs to be, then drop the pump back down to its low speed to preserve energy.
So instead of us setting and hoping we set it right and testing to see if it was set right, with the chem system on the Attendant, it's testing and changing the salt system to achieve that proper level of sanitizer to make sure that we are killing algae faster than it multiplies, and more importantly, killing pathogens, amoebas, and all that other stuff.
Correct.
But so it's going to, whoever salt system is plugged into this is going to energize it as needed to maintain proper chlorine levels.
Correct.
Okay. That's a game
Terminology
changer.
Maybe not perfect, but meaning and the intent behind it, that's right.
I can't even say circulate right.
Yeah. It'll turn the chlorinator on and power up the cell to the point it needs to be, depending on how the cell or the salt system has been connected. Okay. Yes. That you're right. It will manage the chlorine level, so that I guess the key thing here is one of the things that are typical of a salt pool is that they overchlorinate, because no one's running out 15 times a day and turning it up and down as the clouds cover and the UV index rises and falls and so forth. This system effectively is. So it's putting a little bit in and microdosing rather than putting a lot in and then waiting to see what happens. It's just continually keeping the chlorine level consistent rather than doing this as it turns on and off.
And then with the chemistry board, we kind of jumped off track. But with the chemistry board, we're also keeping the pH correct, which is critical and difficult with a salt system, and multiple ways to. I mean, you can have liquid acid feeders. You can have, y'all even will control a CO2 feeder.
CO2 for sure, yeah, absolutely. Like everything that we do, and you touched on a little earlier on that we operate everything, and that's truly one of the magnificent things. Probably one of the most magnificent things about this is at a later date you can plug whatever you want in, and the same is true for builders as they're assembling pads and designing pools. The same is for service companies who are going out and seeing pads that might have a configuration of all sorts of different stuff. Now homeowners don't need to change any devices whatsoever in order to be able to put one of these on the way they have in the past, to align everything under one brand only. This will work with whatever configuration of whatever machines and systems that you want.
Because in the past, for people that are may just be getting a pool, or you're just new to pools and all you know is what's on your pool. In the past, most control systems, and I'll show, I'm going to show pictures of this up here, the benefits that the Attendant, that's a lot of benefits, y'all. And I'll leave it up there. You can freeze frame it and really go down this list and the benefits for the pool owner here. But in the past, if you had a control system of a certain brand, you were married to that brand for everything.
Correct.
You could not get proper diagnostics. You could not get proper control of like variable speed pumps, of salt systems, of heaters, of all these different things that we put on equipment pads. Y'all will talk to anybody's anything.
Yes.
So you can have a Frankenstein pad. You could have Hayward this, Jandy this, Pentair this. Doesn't matter. You're going to communicate with it.
Yes.
Including lighting.
Yes.
So
that's easy, isn't it?
It's because in the past, I mean, there'd be times like we could not get. It's like we had that big freeze, and Texas sucked all the pool equipment out of the United States, and we were just scrambling to find anything we could find. And if somebody had a certain brand control system, and we could not get the pump that control system would talk to, we were kind of screwed. We had to put whatever we could on there and just make it the best we could. But now with your system, and there's a lot of builders using your system, regardless of what brand pump, filter, that heater that they're using y'all's control system. But it doesn't matter if you decide you hate that brand of pump, you've been screwed around by the manufacturer or whatever, or somebody comes up with something really cool, grab it. You're going to talk to it.
I don't think it's very often that someone comes out with something so cool that people in the pool industry rush out to replace perfectly okay pumps with a new one. But look, I think if COVID's taught us nothing, Frank, it has taught us this, that being held to operate within a single brand, imagine how many projects right across the country through the COVID and then after the freeze could have been finished on time had they been able to grab any pump that they wanted to complete that pad. Yeah. And instead, pools were being shut down, automation systems were being shut down because they couldn't get anything to work. They had to get a temporary pump, which they couldn't operate through. It was all sorts of ugly, really, and difficult. And difficult for pool owners, like it was also difficult for you guys in the service game. It was...
I almost got out of the industry.
It was hair-pulling stuff, it really was.
It was bad.
So this gives consumers, from the point of purchase, freedom of choice to choose whatever they want now, today, whatever they want in the future, with no problems at all.
All right.
So,
let's go another break. Can you do one more segment, or
sure.
Or you just want to do a second show?
I can do another segment. That's easy.
Okay.